So that was Brian Dable talking after the game was over and talking about the list of injuries the Giants had, which we'll go through in a minute. But he basically said that they were coaching a linebacker to play safety in that game. So you're down so many people that by the end of the game, you have a linebacker training on the job to play safety and getting some additional coaching. He seemed nonplussed by the idea that they had injuries, and we will go through that in a minute. But we are the Three Angry Giant fans and a Jet fan. This is your host, Scott, Giant Mike, Cardone, and Jets fan Novak. We're going to bring you the recap of the Jets game. We're going to talk to you about the rosters now that all the cuts have been made, talk about practice squads, a preview of the season, and of course, our favorite, Pet Peeves. So, guys, initial reaction to the final preseason game.
Well, we have to let the winner speak first. I mean, there's no.
Yeah, we'll step aside here for a moment.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got the Snoopy Bowl back, second year in a row. I got the bragging rights. I mean, I was coming on here wanting to give you guys crap, but you know what? I'm a nice guy. I'm not going to do that. I know how jealous you are that I got the Snoopy Bowl on the mantle, so I'm going to let it go. But, you know, I'm going to start this off with kudos for once to the NFL. How about this, right? We give the NFL a ton of crap, right? We can't stand what it's become and all this stuff, and we're old school and all that. They've done something that I love, and that is this roster cut down once at the end of the preseason, just once, instead of this staggered cut down over the course of 3 or 4 weeks. Because if you watched the second half of those games, we were all playing guys that were cut. No chance of even a contributor getting hurt. I love what they've done. It took them too long to do this, but this one and done is fantastic in my opinion.
That's a good call, Novak. I like that because, you know, at first I was thinking it's really brutal. I mean, you get all these cuts happening in one day, but when you think about it, it's good to just have them all lumped in. Everyone's shooting from the same barrel, and everyone has the same players to pick from on the next day.
It also gives the people on social media a chance to make it sound like the Giants are like some evil corporation. The slashes at headquarters for the Giants continue. So they get rid of more and more people. Like every other team isn't doing the exact same thing. The headlines are like massive amounts of cuts coming out of the Meadowlands.
The Meadowlands.
Well, of course, if you got two teams there, it's double the people.
Yeah. I wonder if that was the take, if that was what they were going after.
That's a great, I like that comment there, Scott. It's a great segue into my first comment about the Snoopy Bowl. So these journalists, these writers, they still don't know how to write about this Giant Jet preseason game and the fact that we play each other, you know, this year in a regular season. So I read one article, you know, and I just skipped through most of the bullshit in there. But at one point, the guy's like, well, this just sets the stage for these crosstown rivals, you know, set up for whatever week, you know, we play each other. And I said, crosstown rivals? Like, what are they crossing? Across the fucking shower in the locker room? Like, what? They play in the same stadium. Crosstown rivals. Like, we're oh yeah, you know, hey, where can I find the Jets? 2 doors down to the left. There they are, right there. You know, it's like I got to get on a subway and truck my way through the 5 boroughs to go, you know, out to it's old Shea Stadium. Crosstown rivals. Stop it. Like, no. We're cutting across the locker room. Which door? Down here? No, that's the IT room. What there? There you go. All right, I see it. Jets locker room. There you go.
So true.
Crosstown rivals. They won't stop with this stuff. Yeah.
No, they have no idea.
Oh, and by the way, and even emphasis the word rival. We play each other once every 4 years. Different conferences.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, you guys don't give a crap about the Jets and never have. It's not that big of a deal. Now, this year might be a little different because, you know, everyone's talking about the Jets. No one's talking about the Giants. And I candidly don't like that, but that's the way it's been. I got to deal with that. But, you know, something's going to come back when we play in the regular season. There were a couple of things that happened at that game that I was not real pleased with, namely from words out of the mouth of the Dick. But we can get into that later. But I was definitely not happy with a couple of things he said on Hard Knocks as it pertains to the Jets-Giants rivalry. As they say.
I was going to tee a couple of those up because, you know, you just brought up, you know, that it's such a heated rival, but Aaron Rodgers doesn't even know who one of our guys is apparently. So we will talk about that.
We'll get into that, I'm sure.
Before we get into the rosters and talking about Hard Knocks, let's give a shout out. So this is outside of Jersey for once. Hello, Kimball, Nebraska. So Cornhuskers are in the house. So Kimball, population 2,290, was originally called Antelopeville.
They
changed it.
They changed the name from Antelopeville to Kimball and was renamed after a Union Pacific Railroad. So another railroad tie in one of these historical towns. It was one of the railroad officials named Thomas Kimball. And it's also known as the High Point in Nebraska, which means it's probably on a dirt mound.
Built up on an anthill.
82 feet high? Like how tall?
So they were called Antelopeville, which, by the way, one of the cooler names of a town I've ever heard. I don't know why you would change that.
Why would you change
it? Antelopeville is awesome. But like the Antelopeville Cougars or something. That would be.
Yeah. Who's offended by Antelopeville? Right? I can just see the town hall meetings like, God damn it, we got to change the town, like the name of this town. It's giving us a bad name. How else can you remember it? Let's change it to, anyone that who's that? It's just like someone who just showed up in a meeting. Who made the biggest donation here? I don't know, some guy named Kimball. There you go.
There you go.
Kimball, Nebraska. There you go.
It's his town.
I got to see if the town mascot now, are they the Kimball Antelopes?
Man, they better be. They better have
come on, yes, right. I agree with Mike. You have to be that.
Yeah. No question.
So big week this week. We mentioned the cut down day. Jets won the Snoopy Bowl. Isaiah Simmons became a Giant, which happened after we came on the air last week. He's going to be wearing number 19. So let's hope he doesn't become another recent signee that had number 19 and continue that tradition as Kenny Galladay did. But Simmons played, I think, 7-8 snaps in that Jets game. Almost got to Rodgers one time, but he looks fast. And here's a guy for a 7th round pick. And there was a lot of hand-wringing over this about the Giants getting a guy. They gave up a 7th round pick. They're paying him $1 million this year, former top 10 pick. And he didn't fail in Arizona, or he might not have failed at all in Arizona, but he didn't fail because of injuries or anything like that. He's still got that athleticism and the burst that he had when he came out of college. And I watched him play at Clemson. And the guy was active as hell in Clemson. He was one of those guys, though, that in college he was almost like a tweener. He wasn't a dedicated pass rusher. He wasn't a safety. He wasn't a full-time linebacker. And I think sometimes that translates poorly to the NFL. Now, my saving grace with Simmons is that he comes from a dumpster fire of an organization known as the Arizona Cardinals, who God knows what they're doing. I mean, I'm glad we're playing in week 2 because they just let go of their supposed starting quarterback, Colt McCoy, while Murray's still on the shelf for the first part of the year. So we're going to be facing, I think, Josh Dobbs or something like that. I have no idea. So that organization is tanking, I think, to get Caleb Williams, and which means Kyler Murray's probably on his way out. But dumpster fire of an organization. I'm hoping that that's the case, and that we got Simmons as a steal at that slot for a 7th rounder.
I mean, even if he's not a steal, does it matter? I mean, it's a 7th rounder. I mean, this is the kind of move that other teams make about this time of year in the past, and we're like, how do they do that? How do the Eagles get a serviceable linebacker with just throwing away a number 7? We've historically not done that. Novak, I don't know. I've not paid enough attention to the Jets to know if you guys have done that or had. I imagine the Patriots probably played that game a couple times, but it's nice to see we're the ones taking the flyer. Now, who knows? Quite often these things don't work out. Obviously Arizona, as Scott said, they're a dumpster fire, but they weren't holding out for someone to give them a 5th or a 6th instead for this guy, So I be honest, I don't remember when he was drafted. I don't remember much about him. I've not heard his name called much in the NFL over the past few years. So I went and looked, and the guy looks like, I mean, this is consensus. This isn't Giant writers saying this, but I've seen a lot of people say he's been horribly misused. in the NFL, and we'll see what Wake Martindale can do with him if we did get something serviceable there.
I could see him playing the same role that Landon Collins did last year, and he's got a lot more athleticism at this point of his career than Landon Collins did.
Yeah, he's younger too, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's 25, I think.
This is
Is
the
there
first
a
time.
He was a
we-
number 9
yeah.
pick, by the way, coming
9
out of
pick?
Clemson.
Oh, really, Scott? Okay. Yeah. No, I was just gonna make a quick comment. Like, this is the again, this is how much I love this coaching staff and the upper management for the Giants right now. So I just trust everything they're doing, and even like the smaller, minor, kind of transactions and things. And I know we'll get into some of the the cuts and all that. But Novak, you made a good point. I do. I like the one cut only rule that we're sitting at now. So it just, you kind of know your roster. I wasn't surprised by any of the other moves that the Giants made, maybe at all, Scott. I mean, if you want to get into some of the cuts or some of the roster moves, we can kind of transition to that. So
yeah, because I mean, good point. I mean, you're going to see that there's not a single undrafted free agent on this roster, which we've talked in a previous pod about how the bottom of the roster guys now are all fairly serviceable compared to past years. We did make one move prior to the cut down, and that's we traded for Boogie Basham from the Bills. He was another pass rushing linebacker. Basically, could take the spot of what Zimenez was, or Tom and Fox, which as we saw, it was his trading for him. And I think the Giants and Bills are swapping 6 rounders or something like that.
I'm assuming that's a Dayball connection. I would think
it is.
Being,
It's a
coming over from the Bills
Shane
roster.
and Dayball
Yeah.
connection. Yeah,
Sure.
Shane drafted him. Well, Bean drafted him, but Shane was part of that staff. So yeah, let's go down through the cuts and the roster moves that were made. So I'm going to be talking for a few minutes here. Wide receiver Colin Johnson from Sales was cut.
A big fan favorite of the show here. I'm sorry, I had to Johnson. That was the only one I was like, oh damn it, Johnson from Sales is gone.
Yep.
Who's going to run that Sales territory? And
when I saw him out there in the fourth quarter of that game against the Jets, I knew his fate was sealed.
Wasn't a good
sign. Novak was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Not a good sign.
I won't interrupt again there, Scott. Go ahead.
Veteran running back, former Jet James Robinson. Guard Jack Anderson is on the waived injured list. Guard Wyatt Davis, I think he tore his ACL or had a knee injury in that game, waived injured. Defensive back Zion Gilbert, same thing, waived injured. We put tight end Chris Myrick on the IR. He broke his hand in that game. So again, our third tight end breaking his hand. Defensive lineman Kevin Atkins outright release. Defensive lineman Donovan Jeter, no relation to Derek. Cornerback Darrell Evans. Wide receiver Jaden Mickens. Offensive lineman Corey Cunningham, and the pride of Bucknell, offensive tackle Julian Davenport, who was recently signed and was basically played like he was a Division I AA player. Defensive lineman Braden Bryant, linebacker Tayshawn Bauer, wide receiver Bryce Ford Wheaton, promising guy, probably could have made the roster as a special team player. He was put on IR. He tore his ACL during that game. So another fringe player getting injured in the Jet game. Quarterback Tommy DeVito. We'll talk about him in a minute, as well as wide receiver David Sills, the vaccinated. Offensive tackle Tyree Phillips, many thought would be the swing tackle. He was released. Running back Jashwan Corbin, who had a pretty good camp. Linebacker Zimenez. Wide receiver Jamison Crowder, former Jet, actually had a pretty good game against the Jets too. Defensive lineman Habakkuk Baldonado, linebacker Deontay Johnson, wide receiver Khalil Pimpleton, linebacker Tom Fox, long snapper Cam Lyons, linebacker Ray Wilburn, and then an offensive center Sean Harlow, linebacker Ryder Anderson. Aaron Robinson is on the PUP to start the season. Defensive back Amani Oriwari, who was signed in the offseason, was cut. Wide receiver Cole Beasley was cut. Cornerback Jamon Green. Safety Alex Cook. And then tight end Tommy Sweeney was placed on the reserve non-football injury list. Word is he had a heart issue during practice, and they think it might be related. He had myocarditis coming from complications from COVID a couple years ago. And they think this might have been a flare up of that, which could actually impact whether or not he has a career going forward. So serious situation. Best thoughts out to Tommy Sweeney. He did catch a touchdown pass this year from DeVito in the preseason. But two guys we were talking about, DeVito and Sills. Sills the fifth, preseason god. Guy basically is he's the epitome of that guy who gets to AAA and can't get to the major leagues. Is instead of a 5-tool player, he's a 2-tool player. And then
way to put it.
Tommy DeVito. A lot of people thought he had a great camp. I will say this. Tyrod Taylor is a backup in this league. He's a veteran quarterback. And DeVito did not look fantastic. He looked serviceable, which is, great for an undrafted free agent. But this isn't a realistic debate on whether or not he should be the backup or not. So I could see him being signed to the practice squad, which he was, and we'll get to the practice squad in a minute. But guys, any thoughts on anyone? Like you said, I mean, there's no undrafted free agents, not a lot of surprises. Tyree Phillips might have been a surprise. Tom and Fox and Zimenez might be considered surprises, but they're not really.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of surprises on there for me. There was some very interesting things, I thought, and that's, how many of those fringe players maybe had an outside chance to make the team and just got injured. And in this day and age, it's like, okay, bye. They're not. That's it. How many people on that list were just injured and might have seen their career come to an end? But the one I thought was most interesting was Robinson, running back Robinson, because I think he was brought in case we couldn't work out the Saquon situation. So he went from potentially probably being our starter or very close to it to being cut in camp because of the Saquon signing. I think that's pretty interesting.
Well, and one guy that might have been a surprise, I actually did not mention him, Darren Beavers. He was thought to be the starting linebacker possibly last year as a rookie, tore his ACL, came back in the offseason and just did not look good this preseason. So he's been cut and he's been signed to the practice squad.
No, I liked it. I like the moves, guys. I really don't have anything to, I don't know, bark about really. What's interesting though is looking at the depth chart here on the screen, and it's when preseason there's so many guys in there, right? And all of a sudden you look at the depth chart, like, where did everybody go? Like you go from left to right starter to, I'm like, shit, where is everybody? You got no one behind Kayvon Thibodeau and Leonard Williams. Just like these guys go down. Like who we plugging in? But everyone deals with this, right? So every single team has to deal with. They got there's good players that get cut or good potential players. We don't know exactly if some of these guys are going to pan out or so. But I got to say, guys, to going into week one and the roster that we're sitting at right now. I'm pretty excited. I like it a lot.
Yeah. Competitive group, I think. And it's one of those where, again, you don't have a whole lot of fodder. You have a lot of guys that are capable and would be playing on other teams had they been released. Sills signed with the Broncos today onto their practice squad. So, he was snapped up.
Now that Novak, COVID is over, we really had no use for Sills the vaccinated. Although COVID coming back, though, I mean, maybe they're like, oh, damn, and the Broncos grabbed him right up. I mean,
So Novak from the Jets side, any surprise cuts, any cuts of note? I have one that I want to mention, but I'll let you talk about some of the other ones.
Yeah,
I probably know where you're going to go, and hopefully it's clean. But there wasn't any surprises, but because we're on that fucking Hard Knocks, there were a couple ones that people had interest in, right? If it wasn't for that, no one would care. We had the guy that was cut, Jerome Cap, who did the 8 Mile rendition of from the movie. Tanzel Smart, who was brought back. He was cut. And then we had a couple of other ones that weren't, really no big deals. Like a couple of my Jet friends and I were like texting before the cut down, and I think we got like 52 of the 53 correct, right? We just missed on a couple, which goes to show, like we've talked about, we're cutting basically depth, camp arms, just bodies that weren't planning on playing anyway. The only thing that I thought was funny is that we cut our only punter, and the Jet Nation was going nuts, thinking that they were so dumb that they forgot they didn't have a punter. What is Rodgers going to punt to? Like, and I'm going, it's a roster move. They're just telling the guy, hey, we're going to cut you, but we're going to bring you right back tomorrow so we can figure out some injury things and how these guys manipulate that roster. So Morstead was cut, and of course he got brought back the next day. Same with our third string quarterback, Tim Boyle, the Rodgers' other buddy that has to be on the team. But other than that, Becton was named the starting right tackle, which I love. I think he looked great, and he was a first-round draft choice a few years ago, so he's got to play. No surprises at the end of the day. I was exactly the roster I thought they would do. The only thing that was a surprise for me is they kept 7 wide receivers, so that's a lot. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen there. I don't think they'll go to the season with that, but as of now, they have 7 wide receivers on the roster, which I thought was surprising.
Yeah, that's one thing we have to remind the listeners of. These were initial,
Right.
Initial 53-man rosters. There's going to be a lot of shuffling going on in the next couple of weeks before the games start with fringe players. Even after week 1, you're going to see some people get released, other people brought in. You'll see some waiver claims made. So, Novak, any draft picks this year get cut for the Jets?
We had one that was released, our 7th round draft choice, who was a tight end from Old Dominion, Zach Kuntz, who coincidentally was brought back to be on the practice squad. So yes, he was cut, but brought back.
Well, that's good. So Kuntz was given the pink slip. I do think there was something fishy going on there with Kuntz.
I'm not going to engage. Do not engage.
I can't top those.
No, not going there. I don't know who we got listening. We got people from Nebraska and something.
Right.
Who knows what they're going to think
Nebraska
of us
on the line.
They're looking down on us from the highest point in Nebraska.
I do. But hey, Novak, I do want to make a quick comment for all of us here. So, speaking of certain teams, cutting, that I was informed that the Philadelphia Eagles did in fact cut their only punter. So Sirianni, they maybe the arrogant asshole that he is, maybe they think they're never going to have to punt this year, or that they're just going to go for it on every 4th down, because the Eagles don't have a punter right now. So maybe they could pick up the Jet guy that got your punter there. They're without a punter right now. I don't know what they're so.
They're just gonna score at will. They're never going to need to punt. Like in college when Michigan plays like some South Carolina State or something.
That's it.
They don't punt.
So go figure. Yeah.
So
not planning to punt.
Speaking of Hard Knocks, there were a couple things on Hard Knocks I thought was interesting from this game. First off, it really overblown here. The Hyatt versus Sauce Gardner matchup. First off, Hyatt made a move, got by Gardner. Wasn't a completed pass for a touchdown. Wasn't anything of note. He just beat the guy on a move, and all of a sudden this is supposed to be Hyatt just showing up, Sauce Gardner. Guys, look, it's a preseason game. We don't know how hard either of those players are going out. I love to see the route running by Hyatt. I think we're going to take some deep shots with him this year. I think we're going to take several deep shots with him. But the way that they're making this out to be like burning Sauce Gardner pisses me off. It actually is probably going to light a fire under Sauce, and it has nothing to do with what happened in that play. They never completed the pass.
It's gonna bring Sauce to a boil.
Oh, now you got the punch. You couldn't have any for Kuntz.
Yeah, you know how I feel about preseason and the effort level, and not to mention these two teams do play each other. It's there's nothing out there anyone's seen, including that or any other number of 100 things that you can actually believe.
Yeah. So there were 2 other dust ups from what happened during that game. So there was Aaron Rodgers and Jihad Ward had a war of words going on where Rodgers basically said, "Bro, I don't even know who you are," to Ward as they're talking smack.
Let's be honest, that's actually kind of funny.
It is, right? It is kind of funny.
I mean, well done at the spur of the moment. Goes, look at him, dude. I don't know who you are. Like that's pretty good. Give him credit for that.
I kind of like it actually, even though it's I'm shaking my head because it's just the dick, but it is pretty good actually. I had to admit.
And then Randall Cobb with a blindside block, and actually put I think it was McLeod or it might have been McCain, ended up giving him a concussion on the play, but he comes back to the huddle and basically Aaron Rodgers says, bro, this isn't 2014. You just lost your whole preseason check on that. So he was flagged for a blindside block, and it was a blindside block. But I thought that was the funniest thing that came out of Hard Knocks.
I'm surprised you didn't pick. Now, I could be wrong because there's another show called One Jet Drive, right? It's on YouTube and it's similar to Hard Knocks, but it's produced by the Jets. So if it was said on here and you guys didn't see it, okay. But if it was said on Hard Knocks, which it might have been, I'm surprised you didn't pick up on it.
What is it?
Rodgers running off the field and he called it Jet Life Stadium.
Oh, hey.
Which I didn't like. I'm like, why are you poking the bear? Just let it go, dude. Like, and
he can't help himself, man. That's why, dude. It's why it's who he is. It just look at me, man. Let's try. He's Hollywood. He's he loves the attention, loves all of it, loves the sound bites, loves the cameras. Guy can't help himself, man. I want
to know two things from that game. If they had scored on the first possession, would Rodgers have come out for the second possession? And had they not scored on the second possession, would he have come out for the third possession?
I think he would have come out. And how annoying is it that no joke. It was a great throw to Garrett Wilson. They're making it seem like it was the immaculate reception, right? Like they're talking like it is the throw of the century in a preseason game to Garrett Wilson against a backup cornerback.
Yeah. This is why I thank God preseason is ending at least. It's insufferable enough even during the regular season, but preseason it's tenfold how the drama that it's all the sports media. It's all the reactions and the guys who call the games. It's just it's insufferable and unlistenable and unwatchable sometimes, guys. I mean, we love to do it, but at the same token, the preseason, just thank God it's over or ending. Yeah.
Well, you were talking about Nick Sirianni earlier, and I had a few pet peeves from that Eagles-Colts game. So first off, Sirianni throws a challenge flag in a preseason game, and he proceeds to be on the field standing over the flag, pointing to the flag. And when the guy finally notices, he sort of flicks the wrist and walks away. I'm like, what is this guy? This guy's such a fucking schmuck. I mean, if I were an official, I think I would have just acted like I didn't see the challenge flag, and flagged him for being on the field or something. He's such a cock. And then you got Anthony Richardson. He scores a touchdown and he does the Fly Eagles Fly taunt in a preseason game.
Oh my God, I missed that.
That team is.
Yeah, not only did he do that, here's his stat line. Passing. He was 6 of 17 for 78 yards. All I heard the day after that game was how impressive Anthony Richardson looked. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking to myself, we've gotten to the point now where the quarterback position no longer is judged on how well you throw the ball or how poorly you throw the ball. It's just judged on what your stat line is.
But those are good stats, though. It doesn't.
No,
yeah,
I know. I mean,
yeah.
Well, no, not judged on your stat line. Judged on how you look in intangibles, like running the ball and things.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's how many times something you did gets on a replay, and then the other thing about it is just whatever mood the announcers are in that day. If they're feeling lovey to you, you get a whole new lease on life, man. You don't even have to play well.
Well, I think back, it was just a few years ago now where Tim Tebow led the Broncos to a playoff berth, but the guy couldn't throw the ball, and everyone recognized you can't throw the ball. You're going to have to be a tight end if you want to stay in this league. Yeah. And I don't understand why there's not more scrutiny put on some of these other guys, because if you go 6 for 17 for 78 yards in a regular season game, you should not be getting praise for that. There should be no one saying, well, you know what? He looked pretty good. He was impressive to me. That was a very impressive showing.
I saw the words poised, solid, and signs of flashes, I think, or showed. This is where we're at, guys. I mean, I'm telling you, you're going to hear me talk about this every fucking week with the quarterback, with the comments. I mean, again, I have it's part of my, little bit of my, my pet peeve segment again tonight is kind of related to that. But it's preseason, guys. We're talking about that. Wait till the regular season starts, and we'll see what happens with these young quarterbacks. And once the games count for real, let's see how everybody performs. I'll give credit when it's due. and it's a regular season game, and these guys can, some of these young quarterbacks that they're anointing, we'll obviously see and break it down, but for right now, let them take some snaps in a regular season game before we make any assessments.
Cardone, the showed flashes is just such a code word for, I want to praise this guy, but he didn't give me enough to praise him for.
Exactly.
That's code for that. Like,
right.
I want to tell you how great this guy is, but I've only got one or two little highlights here. They're not that impressive. So he showed flashes. Guys, I was thinking about this. Can you imagine if, like, you're at your job, right? Johnson from sales, Cardone from sales, whatever. Right. And every job has got like these supposedly impartial, objective viewers who walk around the office all day and watch. And at the end of the day, they go to your boss and go, "Did you see Cardone today? Oh my God. He closed 3 deals. Oh, but he's a Hall of Famer. Unbelievable." And, so that'd be great, right? And then you got like me, I'm over there, I do one little thing all day. But for whatever reason, the announcers like me. They're going, don't overlook Hisman. He showed flashes today. He was,
I love bringing that to I'm telling you, I wish there was always like a Saturday Night Live skit, like every week, like bring pro sports into the workplace. And do all the analogies. It's great. My favorite one is always like just going to like, where's Cardone today? Like, I'm holding out. Like, I'm just holding out. What? How long? Just holding out. Still getting, just not showing up, just holding out. That'd be great. Like,
well, it's kind of like,
Hisman's making this. I deserve this. Like.
I think we said it a couple of weeks ago. My favorite always is he's the first one in and the last one out. Well, does he do a good job when he's there? I don't know, but he's the first one in and the last one out, so he must be fucking great.
I don't know. He just never. Well, what's he do when he gets there? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
So the Cowboys this week, they gave up a 4th round pick for Trey Lance, and then they actually did a pretty cool move in my book. They let Will Grier go out and play an entire preseason game. Mm-hmm. And to show you how tough it is to succeed in preseason, Will Grier went out and went like 27-32 for 320 yards and had 4 total touchdowns. I didn't hear nearly as much about what an impressive showing that was than I did about Anthony Richardson. And you got a guy who was just showcasing his skills for someone else. And I think actually he just got signed by the Bengals today. I don't know if it was to the practice squad or to the regular squad, but Will Grier is now a Bengal.
Yeah, they did him a solid. That was a pretty cool move.
Now, thoughts
and I'm sure the play calling was geared to ensure that he had a night like that as well.
So, thoughts on the Trey Lance trade?
To me, this makes zero sense in any sense of the word. This is the last team I thought that Trey Lance would be traded to. Why? They have a backup in Cooper Rush. Dak is, what is he, on a 5-year deal? He's not going anywhere. And on top of the fact, the GM of the 49ers basically traded 3 first-round draft picks for a 4th-round draft choice, which no one's talking about.
No, nobody's talking about. And can I do, so this is, I wasn't sure how I was going to position this tonight, guys. So this actually is my pet peeve, but you know what, Scott, if you don't mind, can I just get it out there early? Cause it's not even like a pet peeve. It's just more of like, to me, I was just thinking like a way to just say like, Cardone, cause you know me, guys, everyone who knows this, listens to the show, you guys certainly know, my biggest thing is the sports media. Cause I could come up with something every week. So it's almost like, this is going to be a common theme, guys. So it's for me, and especially with the quarterback, we're talking about some young quarterbacks, and this is, but this is where, when you listen to the national media, this is how these stories and the narrative is presented. So, Trey, this was what I was going to talk about tonight, and Trey. The stories, of course, it's the Dallas Cowboys, right? So we know on the national media, ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, all these people, it's going to be about the Dallas Cowboys and what this means for Dak Prescott, what this means for the Dallas Cowboys. Why didn't Jerry Jones tell Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott about that? The guy fucking owns the team. He could do whatever he wants, right? I don't know like why he has to consult with Mike McCarthy on this. But the biggest question I started asking, and this is just more like, Cardone, what makes you angry this week about the sports media? That's like my new segment almost, I swear to God. Well, this is it. Because as I'm watching this coverage of this trade, it's all about Dak Prescott. his inability now, like with the pressure that he's feeling with Trey Lance bringing in, what does it mean, this and that? And I started to think about, well, why can't at some point, if it's Trey Lance we're talking about, and he's involved in this, blockbuster trade, as if he's like, why isn't there at least another angle? Why is it only always one side of the story? And where is at least one person saying, like, well, wait a minute, like, what the fuck are the San Francisco 49ers doing getting rid of this guy? He's championship caliber. What in God's name are the Niners doing? This is a championship. This is a legendary franchise. They knew what they had in Lance. How come you don't hear anything about that side of the story? And it's all Dak, Dallas, Jerry Jones, McCarthy. I mean, we know why. I'm asking kind of rhetorically. It's just it's unbelievable, guys. Like, where all of a sudden I have to now believe the media now tells me that Trey Lance, like there's this controversy in Dallas now. What does it mean for Dak Prescott? Which, hey, listen, I don't think Dak Prescott is a Super Bowl championship kind of caliber quarterback. I hope the hell he's not, right? Because he plays for the hated Cowboys. But I was thinking more, what does it mean for, like, what does it mean for Cooper Rush? Or what does it mean? Or why not getting the perspective of, like, what does this mean for Brock Purdy? Or what does it mean for Sam Darnold out in San Francisco? Like, let's get at least some perspective, even if it's 10% of the other side. I don't know if you guys, maybe I only watched a couple different things on this story. I didn't see one even second from the San Francisco perspective. They're the ones who drafted him. They're the ones that they thought that was going to be the future of their franchise. So why can't you at least I'm just pissed off about the narrative. And we know it's mostly because it's the Dallas Cowboys. If it was the fucking, if this is the Arizona Cardinals, we're not talking about it this way. But
Cardone,
that's the part that drives me nuts.
I love it. And you know what should be the biggest story coming out of this? The San Francisco 49ers are, in most people's estimation, I think we'd all agree with this, are a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl caliber team. 100%. And they unceremoniously let this guy go. Do they not know? Do they not know what they're doing? Did Dallas somehow trick them into doing that? And according to the media, up and until like maybe midway through last year, Dak Prescott was the fourth or fifth best quarterback in the league. So why does bringing a quarterback who can't start for the most quarterback-starved team in the league to Dallas suddenly make the media realize that Dak is a middling at best quarterback? But they do seem to realize that now. But now they've got a new Dallas quarterback to love on, and they, no pun intended, but they will not stop until he's the starter. Relentless in Dallas.
Absolutely,
I guarantee
won't stop. No, you're right. Yeah. You're spot on, Mike.
100%
absolutely.
Right.
But they're bringing them in. He's third on the depth chart right now, and this is sweeping the national sports news right now. And it just pisses me off, guys, how you just don't even get remotely the other perspective. I have at least some interest. You're right, Mike. I have some interest because San Francisco 49ers, they're a damn good football team and one of the favorites to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. So let's get at least one little nugget from that, from that franchise to hear what their thought process is. I'm interested in that. I'd like to hear what they're thinking. Why not?
I mean, you think about it. There are coaches and GMs that get fired for drafting the wrong quarterback in the top 5.
Yeah,
that's 3 draft choices, number 1 draft choices they gave away for this fucker, and they get away scot-free. No one cares.
No, yeah. It's unreal.
Well, and you know what else is at play here too? If you think about it, you have a situation now in Dallas where I'm glad that they have Trey Lance, because now they're going to have to carry 3 quarterbacks because they're not going to cut Cooper Rush. They're going to have to keep Trey Lance just to save face, and now they have 3 quarterbacks on their roster.
Yeah, choose up a roster spot.
I saw a funny stat this week, and I think it was Josh Allen. It was a quarterback that's I think at the AFC who had more passing attempts last season than Trey Lance has had in any of his collegiate and pro career combined.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he was a 1-year starter in college.
Yeah.
And then he came into the NFL and, he didn't do anything his rookie year. And then last year he played a half of a game against the Bears and tore his ACL.
And what's funny is, to pile on this story. So I was asked from somebody, a friend of mine who's not a football fan, doesn't know, just doesn't follow it. Hard to believe, but just doesn't follow the NFL. Certainly is, that close. And
the soccer guy.
Well, I don't know, just whatever, And he asked me, hey, Cardone, man, he's like, so what's going on with Dallas? Dak's, are they trading him or this and that? I said, why are you thinking that, dude? Like, what? Because you're listening to the media and, because you're not familiar with the team or the league or whatever, all of a sudden, like, because there's a perfect example of a guy who's not, doesn't know the ins and outs of it and just here's, the media, just dictating like, oh, here's the narrative, like Dak Prescott's job is in trouble and he's on the trading block now, or, this is so like, what's going on there? I'm like, nothing's going on. Like, no,
Well,
Dak Prescott's the quarterback.
I'm just going to tee this up because we do have a question from Brian Peacock coming up on ranking the NFC East quarterbacks. And I saw a ranking of several people that had Trey Lance like as the third best quarterback in the NFC East.
Oh, come
but
on.
I'm going to say this. First off, I'm not even thinking about third string quarterbacks. Am I going to do an NFC East list of quarterbacks that's 13 people long? No. I'm going to do 4.
I can't even name 8. So I'm going to have a lot of trouble figuring that out.
So a little bit of housekeeping before we move to the formal pet peeves. I did want to just give what the practice squad is right now for the Giants. So they signed Tommy DeVito to the practice squad. They signed Beavers back to the practice squad. Ryder Anderson, Alex Cook, Zimenez, Fox, Beasley, Deontay Johnson, Jamon Green, and they got a tight end from the Eagles, Tyree Jackson, and they also re-signed Amani Oriwahu.
So you're going to give me crap about Kuntz and you got a guy named Beavers? Like, what's...
Not anymore.
So, Novak, you got any pet peeves this week?
I do. And this has been so Cardone definitely focuses on the sports media as his thing. I've listened a couple times and I think I probably harp on too much, like NFL decisions and not the NFL not being like it used to be. I think I focus too much there. So I'm trying to get away from it, but I just can't. So one that has been a pet peeve of mine every single year at the beginning of the season is, and there's a reason why, because I remember the day when I started hating it. I hate my pet peeve is the Thursday night opening of the season.
Yeah.
I hate Thursday night football in general, but when we grew up, preseason ended on Saturday and it started the next Sunday. And it was 1 week. We got to wait an extra week because you guys know we should be playing this Sunday, but we're not because we got to start on a Thursday. And it's unfair to have the two teams that play on Thursday end their preseason 5 days prior. So we are only waiting another week for this because of this fucking Thursday night game. And the day I hated the Thursday night game is when it hit me was 2013 because I remember it because do you remember who opened up the NBC announcing the players coming out?
I do not.
What teams was it? Or wait.
No, the announcer, who it was. They brought in to do the announcing of the Thursday night.
Was it Bruce Buffer?
No, Ryan Seacrest.
Oh my God.
And I remember
certainly don't remember
when
that.
He came out there and he's out there and fans were booing him, as they should. I don't want the guy doing American Idol announcing the NFL kickoff to the season. And right then I was like, I hate this already. I'll never like this. And I've hated it to this day.
That's a great call. You've heard me talk about like blending Hollywood with the NFL or with all professional sports for that matter too. But the NFL especially drives me insane. Does.
Yep.
Ryan Seacrest is. Now that you mention it, Novak, I do kind of remember that. And like just same thing, just being disgusted at looking at that clown on a football field.
I mean, let's just have Kim Kardashian announce it on Thursday.
Right.
What are we doing?
Oh,
so yes, I hate the Thursday night opening game. I don't like I said, I don't like Thursday nights in general. I think it's stupid, but I really hate the season starting on a Thursday night instead of like Sunday, first week, all excited. And I was going to play the NFL Today from the 70s opening. You get so pumped up for the season. We're watching this stupid Thursday night glamour show. I don't need this.
Yep. And Ryan Seacrest. I mean, you guys each had your own take on that. Cardone with the Hollywood crossover. Novak, you mentioned it there. They booed him, right?
Yeah.
This is another example of one of my just year after year after year points. The NFL does not know their audience.
They don't.
they
Or
bring
they
a guy
don't
out.
care about
Or
the
they just
core
choose to
audience.
ignore
They
it.
don't
They choose to
care.
ignore
Yeah.
it because where are
Yeah.
we going? They're not
Yeah.
losing us. That's what it is,
Right,
Mike.
that's
They're
true.
not.
You're right.
You know,
Yep.
we're not going anywhere.
You know what I don't like about the beginning of the season, and usually you'll see it in preseason, and this year you saw it in preseason with the roughing of the quarterback calls, but they always put the emphasis on some rule, and then that rule gets, they officiate the shit out of that rule for the first 2-3 weeks of the regular season, then it magically goes away. And this year it's roughing the passer. In previous years, it's been defensive holding, illegal contact, you name it. But I can't. Why not just call the game by the rule book? I don't understand why they always have these mandates. It shouldn't happen. To Novak's point, why does the NFL fuck with things? Just call the game correctly, and you don't have to put an emphasis on anything.
I mean, can you think of another entity that owns a day of the week nationally? They own Sunday. Like NFL owns Sunday. It owns a day of the week.
It does.
And you got to start it on a Thursday. Give me a break.
Yeah.
I know. If they want to, right. The Thursday thing's not right. If they want to, at least for week one, start everyone on Sunday and of course Monday. But start the Thursday, then the schedule in week 2.
Exactly.
So, that's a great call.
Play
man.
that marquee game Sunday night.
Sunday night. Make it Sunday night.
I mean, nobody wants that Thursday game there. I mean, you got pools and bars. You got to get down Thursday to put your pick in. You got fantasy leagues. Nobody wants a Thursday game. Compact it down for us. Help us out.
I hate it. So wait, Scott, I just want to go back to the rule changes thing real quick because I wasn't sure. I knew I was aware of this, but for some reason, hearing it in one of the games, this past weekend. And I don't know if I don't know where your pet peeve is or whatever, if it has something to do with that.
That was just a comment on Novak.
Yeah,
but
here's another one that they put in, and they talked about this last year, but I guess it went in officially, right? I think I have this correct, because I don't think they had this last year. But now you can fucking fair catch a kickoff inside the fucking 25-yard line. So I've always said you're kicking off from the 35. Like, why can't these kickers who are so accurate and good at their craft just pop the damn ball down like to the 5-yard line and cover the kick and smash these guys inside the 25? Oh no, the NFL now has decided, that's too dangerous, or we're going to get more guys injured. So now you can fucking fair catch kickoffs now. Just get rid of it. Get rid of the kickoff. Just, you know what? Just get rid of the hold, because you know why? The kickoff, they've done so many things with the onside kick and moving the kick, up to the. Just get rid of it already, because that's where we're going. So stop just bullshitting and just get rid of it already. Just stop it.
I used to love when Gano would not kick it into the end zone and land at the 1. That to me is like a strategic move. Keep that in the game.
Well, let's just do it like punt, pass, and kick. Let's get the quarterback out there. Who can ever throw it the farthest, wherever the ball lands, that's where you start. Like, let's take off any contact whatsoever.
I'm waiting for
land
punts.
at the 1.
Yeah. I'm waiting for punts just to be spotted where they fucking hit the ground. You know what I mean? Like, just don't even wait for you don't even have to catch the punt anymore. You don't have to it's wherever it's like a fucking javelin. Wherever the punt landed, that's where you get the ball. You don't even have to field the thing. I don't want anyone getting hurt. I don't want anyone. Just get rid of special teams at this point. I don't know what else.
I think that's where we're headed. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think you got to use a better object than a javelin. I've seen people get hurt with the javelin.
Yeah. I don't know. No, I was just thinking of I was trying. The first thing that came to my mind is where I'm barking that argument. Like what is something that where it spots. I mean that javelin just sticks in the ground. I'm trying to think. Shot put? I don't know. Like
there's that old
count
video
the roll,
of the one,
right? They count
the
the
one
roll
official
out.
getting speared by the javelin. He's just sort of looking at his shoulder as medics come out. He's not even freaking out. He's not dropping to the ground like he's dead, pierced. He's just
be a pro. Be a pro. Be a pro.
I'll tell you, my favorite javelin toss of all time was the limp-wristed Lamar for Lambda. Wormser, who was a genius in aerodynamics, designed a javelin to go along with Lamar's limp-wristed throwing style, and he
Wormser.
Yeah.
You just imagine that being in a movie today. Oh my god.
That whole movie it would get canceled right away. I mean, you can't.
You wouldn't last 5 minutes. Yeah.
Mike, any pet peeves?
Yeah, I have one this week. It's in football, but it's sort of fringe in football. It's fantasy football is my pet peeve, and not just fantasy football, because I do enjoy it. It's ESPN, Yahoo. It's these canned leagues that are already set up and online, right? So it takes away. I remember when I first started playing fantasy, man, you'd go get newspapers and magazines that were 8 months out of date, and you'd have to go through there and figure out, okay, what's still relevant. And the internet was fledgling, and you're banging around out there trying to find a backdoor into a website to get some information, and you're looking for stats that back then people would have been like, who cares about targets? I care about targets. Targets are pretty important to me. So it's just now, though, with the way these things are set up, I mean, what's the use of having the draft? Just get a draft order and just assign everybody the players in order. I mean, it's kind of become like the power rankings, right? So you go in there and you could have any knuckle sitting there for you, and you could auto draft a pretty good team. Yeah, just take the highest player on that list. That's always not a bad strategy. They just make it too easy. The playing field is too damn level. And it's the fantasy league I'm in that I spend the most time with is the one that Scott Cost runs here, and our site does a little bit of that, but we've kept it grainy on purpose, I think, where it's not so it's not so much like that. I mean, we weren't Luddites enough to say we're not using the internet. We're still going to calculate with a newspaper, and but I think we've kept it challenging enough. And I had to put that caveat in because I won it last year, so I can't be saying how easy it was. So,
well, the one thing too with this league is that if you have a good week, you score like 60 points.
Right.
Yeah.
And any other league, that would be dead last in basically anything
by a mile. Yeah.
I don't understand. Isn't it supposed to be like you pretend you're a football manager or whatever? How'd you do this week? I won 168.4 to 119.7. Like, what the? What game are you playing? It's not football. It's clearly not football. Is it an NBA thing? Like, what are you doing?
Wait, you brought up the magazines. Remember, I love those the old days, right? I mean, if we're going back to the old days. So
yeah.
Right. So yeah, they're so funny, because they were printed like in May, so guys aren't even like in the country anymore. They're on NFL rosters and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's safe to say I'm going to bring out something from the archives here. So I think we've talked about this on the show before, but like Scott and I met at a workplace, and then I think that's how Giant Mike, I think it's how I met you, is in the fantasy football league. Someone in your league dropped out. Scott brought me in, and he's like, "Hey, I think there's this other dude that what high school did you go to?" I'm like, I'm from Lincroft, New Jersey, Middletown South. He's like, "There's this dude, like, Scott Novak." I'm like, I think I remember that name, So that's how I was gonna say met Novak here on the show was through Scott's fantasy football league. But back in the day, all 12 of us got together, usually at Scott's house on a Saturday. It was one of the greatest days of the year, right, guys? I mean, it was just getting all banged up all day. It was, great excitement. But we did a live draft. Scott had the old-fashioned board. We did everything by hand. And so where I'm telling this whole story just to get to one line. Certainly my favorite line of all times. I think I'm going to put this question to the three of you guys here. What's our favorite line of what's our favorite fantasy football draft day line of all time?
I had to write it in to cross them off.
Yeah. That's okay.
So someone in our league, just a voice in the back of the room, late in like middle rounds, definitely late rounds, I guess. I don't know. And this is when back in the day where we used to cross out, and the first 4 or 6 rounds, everybody was on top of it. Like you had, and then by the middle rounds, you're drinking, you're already starting you're already starting to lose a little interest by like the 10th round. Guys are coming off the board, and so one of the guys does anyone remember what player it was that was taking a kick? Because the guy.
I can't remember. It was probably a Detroit Lion, because it was probably the Detroit Riot of his gourd.
Maybe
he was out of his mind drunk by the 5th round, though.
We're all kind of heads down, and all of a sudden we hear in the back of the room, I'll take Johnson from Sales, and it's sort of like, and one of the guys is like, shit, I gotta like write him down to cross him off. We couldn't find him on any printed. printed book, magazine, paper. Remember, we'd show up like in briefcases. We all had Novak always had like his folder. Guys are showing up with backpacks. This is before like everyone was. I remember the first time someone showed up with a laptop.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
And we
Making
still
it-
call him Laptop Bob because he showed up with a
Hey,
laptop like
But
20
I was-
years ago.
But I remember
To this
someone
day,
like
we
showing up
call
with
him Laptop Bob, and we
Guys are
all have
showing-
laptops there now.
guys are showing up with laptops. I'm like, what's he doing? Day trading over there? What's going on? He's like stocks and bonds. But I was so intimidated by that. I came in with my magazines. But Novak always had manila folders and stuff. And like,
I did.
remember we all had to spread out on the floor. Everybody had like 10 square feet around them of just like fucking magazines and books and papers. That was great.
By the way,
Yeah.
the draft is this Saturday, so I will be doing the draft. Have barbecue, sausages, dips, snacks,
Poker.
beer, poker.
I'm gonna have to
What are you gonna
crash
draft
that.
all the
And I'm now retired. I'm gonna have to crash that party.
We should
Hey,
live
you-
stream that.
You come by at 7:00 and play poker.
I may.
Yeah,
By the way,
you're
Cardone,
invited.
you're not missing a thing. Like someone will say, I had to write his name down to cross it off. I mean, someone
Absolutely.
said it every year.
Yeah,
It says
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
it
been
became
carried on that
legendary.
tradition for sure.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That and Toto will definitely be played on
Toto
the
will
radio.
played.
And then if you get it-
Not even the good Toto either. Not Africa. It'll be some song you've never heard of.
Yeah.
Toto.
Scott's playlist back. Yeah, it was so. Finally, someone around the fourth round would be like, "What the fuck are we listening to?" Like, just
It's like Air Supply.
yeah, yeah. It was Air Supply. So, contemporary, like soft rock or something. I don't know.
About
Yacht rock.
the third or fourth time you have the player you were waiting on snatched from your grasp, you start to get ornery. You're like, what the hell's this music?
Right.
Jesus Christ.
Kenny G.
But all these things then became tradition. Like you had to then. You counted on it. Yeah.
No, after that, after it happened once, then it was like, we'd go in and sit down, and someone's always like, Scott, what's the soft rock? You got to put the soft rock on.
But I love
how can we pick on you mercilessly if you don't put the soft rock on?
But I loved how it was like, it was sort of around the fifth round. I was like, what the hell are we listening to? It was probably after like the 30-second song. Like, what the hell is going on?
Anyone understand why Arthur's theme is playing again?
Yeah, Christopher Cross is running amok. Like, what the hell are we listening to?
If you get drunk between the moon and New York City.
The in-person draft, nothing like it.
Now that's another part of my pet peeve is how that's stolen the in-person draft. Like we're for the first year this year we're like half the leagues like, oh, I'm just gonna stay home and do it online, and we've been pretty much getting together in person. I think I just missed the year at the very height of COVID was the only year I missed in person, and so it's stolen that. And then the reason this pet peeve got started tonight was because I am for the first time I have started my own ESPN league, and I've invited some friends and family, everyone here included, who by the way all turned me down. But I need to ask you this, Scott. Why am I setting up until 10:30 tonight? Fixing the schedule it generated for me. I mean, they haven't perfected the schedule generator yet. Are you shitting me? How many years has this been a thing? Why am I playing my cousin like 3 times this season?
Well,
I can't. I'm sitting here manually doing a schedule just like I did in 1985. But I don't get it.
You know what's funny though, Mike? Even when, if you guys remember, of course I should say I remember. I've been out of the league now for a few years, being retired. But we picked our divisions out of the hat, right?
Yeah,
to start the day and
still
stuff.
do.
But Novak, I'm sure you remember this. I was in Novak's division every goddamn year,
You were
and he's a good
every-
player. I'd pick up and it was Carson Sims and Taylor of the
Taylor.
divisions, thanks to Scott. And we'd go around, and Scott would be like, "All right, Carson division." Everyone belted out, and I'd be like, the chaos. All of a sudden there's Jersey. I'm like, God damn it, I'm in Novak. Like, how is that possible? It wasn't even computerized. We were picking out of a hat. I
Yeah.
swear, I
Because
think
it
Scott
literally, that's so true. Every single year we were in the same division.
seemed
Every
that way.
year.
Every year. There were some guys I played in that league like 12 years. There were some guys I never saw. They were never in the same division. I don't know what happened.
I just like it when Scott runs it and he gets into the beer after about 6-7 rounds. And the year that he drafted like 13 Cardinals,
Oh yeah.
and he didn't realize it until the draft
Yeah.
was over, and he goes, I saw him after. He's like, "Oh fuck! I drafted Edgerrin James, Kurt Warner, Larry Fitzgerald." I mean, and he's like, "They're all on the same team."
Yeah. Live draft. You know who suffers from the live drafts not happening? A lot of sports bars and like places like Hooters. I used to go to bars to have a draft. You know, they have the room in the back. They bring out the snacks. You bring out, you buy pitchers. Yeah, none of that happens anymore.
The last time I was at Mulligan's, they had in that back room, the Patriot area back there, they had a draft going on back there, and I'm in there just eating dinner with my wife, and I'm like, that looks like freaking fun back there. I mean, they're having a good time. Them boys back there.
So we do have a few questions. We do have one from, it's a multi-parter from Bry Peacock. One of them is directed to the Giants and the Jets. How do we feel about both losing to Dallas to start the year? So I don't even think that really dignifies a response.
I think that's a repeat question, isn't it? Didn't he ask us that before?
That could be. He did want us to rank the NFC quarterbacks. So I'll start with this. I honestly think that this year, you're going to see Jones be number one, and he asked that Jones not be ranked number one, but I think Jones is going to be number one this year. I think Hurts will be number two, Prescott will be number three, and Washington's quarterback Sam
Howell.
Sam Howell,
whoever will be
I was
number
just
four.
thinking, like, who the hell plays for Washington? Yeah.
And Trey Lance will be number 11.
I don't even think Trey Lance is fit. According to anything I've ever read in the NFL, if I'm ranking, okay, I'll give what I think the media's ranking is, and then I'll give mine. So the media's ranking of NFC East quarterbacks would be Trey Lance, Tyrod Taylor, Jalen Hurts, Sam Howell, and then Jones. That's probably
Dak?
No, Dak. Well, not now. Dak would have been right for number one, but now he's
down on Dak.
Down on Dak now. No. I agree with yours, Scott. I just flipped DJ and Jalen. I hope yours is right.
I got the same as Giant Mike there. Yeah, I got in order: Hurts, Jones, Prescott, Howell.
Objectively speaking, Hurts was better than Jones last year, and he's probably gonna be better than this year. I just think I'm excited about all the weapons the Giants have, so that's why
I think if you look at the ceiling for both of those players, and I know a lot of people listening would be scoffing at this, I think Jones has the higher ceiling because he doesn't probably run quite as well as Hurts, but he throws the ball a hell of a lot better than Hurts. Yeah. So if you look at those two aspects of the game, I mean, that I've never, in all the criticism of Jones I've ever heard, I've never heard anyone say he's wildly inaccurate. He's always been accurate.
When he's had
Novak, any thoughts on the AFC East quarterbacks?
AFC East quarterbacks?
That's a good one to rank. That's a tough one to rank.
That's a good one.
I mean, I think it's pretty easy. It's Josh Allen, the Dick, Tua, and then Mac Jones. I mean, I think
I'd agree with that.
Fairly simple.
Interesting yesterday that the Patriots released Zappe, which goes to show you just how quick in this league things turn. Yeah. A guy who was, last year, this guy, they were talking about him like he was Brock Purdy for a little bit there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, it's true. I think that's a fairly simple order. I don't think anyone would disagree with that anywhere, to be honest.
Yeah, looking, as I wrote it down, Novak, I'm looking like, it's not as difficult as I thought, I guess, just thinking about it, but without even, giving it more than a couple seconds, thought. But I'm like, can't put Josh Allen anywhere, but he's in first.
He's clearly the other than Mahomes, he's number two or maybe three. You can make the case that Burrow
maybe, yeah. But
now this one is interesting because I guess we're going to go on historical, like a whole career worth. Cut, start, and bench. Eli, Rodgers, and Sims.
Not on personality. Not on personality.
I mean, I'll go first. I mean, I would cut Sims, I would start Rodgers and I would bench Eli. I think if you look at their body work, Rodgers arguably was a better quarterback than Eli. Eli has my heart. Eli will always be my favorite Giant quarterback. But I think objectively speaking, Rodgers would be the guy to start if you're looking at the entirety of their career.
I'd have to have Eli on the bench and then play him in the playoffs. That's how I do that.
Well, and when Rodgers breaks a clavicle, Eli comes in and he does not get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way for me to answer that question objectively. I pass.
Well, definitely. I mean, my first reaction was like, oh shit, where do I go here? I mean, but no, I mean, Rodgers, I mean, I hate, of course, the dick. I mean, definitely got to start the guy. I mean, there's no listen, I had this conversation earlier today about Rodgers and his career, regardless of what he even does this year right now. The guy's a phenomenal talent. He's put up ridiculous numbers. There's no denying that. I mean, I just dislike the guy more off the field. On the field, the guy's fucking, the guy's had an incredible, legendary, quarterback career. So, and it's still going. So I don't want to get into, the whole explanation, but yeah, start Rodgers. I'm benching Eli and cutting Sims. And the Eli Sims is that's tough because I love Phil Sims. But if I had to go, like, Mike, you just said maybe the playoffs. My reasoning is more like Eli. I mean, the guy, Iron Man, right? There's no, like, he's not like Sims had a lot of injuries early in his career. He later in his career, middle and later in his career, Sims was just became legendary with the Giants. But that would be my reasoning. So is more or less to the like the injuries, like Eli, the guy. If you had to go to him in a pinch off the bench, he's there and he's ready to go.
Ready to go.
I would start Rodgers. I would bench Sims and I would cut Eli. And I this is nothing against Eli, but I liked Sims as a Jets fan. I just thought Moorhead State, not didn't have like a lot. Didn't I know you guys love Eli, but he orchestrated his way to the Giants. Sims played for Parcells, and I know Eli played for Coughlin and whatnot. I liked Sims, so I Sims to me would be like the coolest guy coming off the bench for me. So that's the direction I would go there.
I love Phil Sims, but when I think of those 80s teams, I think of the defense and I think of Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson and Carl Banks and those guys before I think of Sims, only because of the way that the game was played back then. So now I will say this. We did talk about this the last podcast. I was a little upset that Tom Coughlin was not selected in the Pro Football Hall of Fame this year. And there's a huge push to get Steve McMichael into the Hall of Fame. And look, Steve McMichael he's dying. I think he has ALS or he's got something seriously wrong with him. He's on his deathbed. But that should not be a reason to put a guy in the Hall of Fame who does not deserve it. And meanwhile, I think Tom Coughlin, if you look at the coaches that are in the Hall of Fame, he certainly deserves it. Two Super Bowl wins, as well as taking Jacksonville to a championship game while he was there, and just this full body of work.
Yeah,
I think he will get in, right? I mean, it's how Coughlin I'm talking about. He will eventually, don't you think?
I think so, but you never know how these things.
No, you never know. It's not, but I'm confident he will. Certainly want to see him get in. I mean, I don't have it in front of me. Do you guys know like how many coaches have won at least 2 Super Bowls?
He's the only one who has won 2 Super Bowls and won't be in the Hall of Fame right now.
Right now, okay.
Well, other than Belichick, who's not eligible, those that have been eligible.
Well, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it's not many.
No, and Andy Reid has 2, and for sure he's getting in at the first year he's eligible, and he deserves it.
And he should. Yeah.
And he should.
He should. But Coughlin should too. I agree.
Yeah. Well, I the Hall of Fame and sometimes other fans, and I know that Peacock is listening, and I put him in this list. And why. I mean, the answer to this question is obviously why. But there is not enough. Winning the Super Bowl is the Mount Everest of our sport. And there's not enough credit given to coaches and quarterbacks who do it.
Yeah.
I always pick on Rodgers and the coach of the Cowboys now for saying, Eli won 2. These guys can't figure out a way to win 2. But winning a Super Bowl should be like the moment as a quarterback or a coach, or, if you're a running back or just a receiver who plays one hell of a game in that game. To me, they should, I'm not saying that puts you in the Hall of Fame, obviously, but they should start thinking about getting your spot ready. as a coach or a quarterback if that happens. And I just hate that there's that's not taken more into account sometimes when I definitely think it should be. If you win 2, I mean, that's it for me. You're in. I mean,
that's small company.
You climbed Everest twice,
Yeah.
and the group that you're in, if you do that, is a small group. It's not like we'd have we're in more danger of flooding the Hall of Fame now, to Scott's point, with people who are suddenly ill, and we would like to see them go in while they're still alive. That's the danger of flooding the Hall. It's not going to be with coaches and quarterbacks who won 2 Super Bowls. Those are still pretty rare. And the ones who do it almost universally, unless you're Eli Manning or Tom Coughlin, belong in the Hall of Fame, right? I mean, if you look at the coaches and quarterbacks who've won 2, glaring omissions had just happened to be Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin. Even though Eli Manning was the MVP of both of those games, and that it was not even a disputed decision about that, by the way. Some people made an argument for Tuck in the second one, but Eli bringing the team down with little time, and that was over. And then Coughlin beat Bill Belichick twice.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, what the hell, man?
Well, I think in all fairness, we'll find out about Eli in a year or 2, but he's not yet eligible.
Right.
But Coughlin not getting in this year. There was some coach from like the 40s that ended up getting, inducted. Yeah. Or he's in the next round.
In the next, what's the maximum they can put in a single year, guys? What's that number?
I don't think there's a maximum. I think
they
have the list, and then
I thought there. Okay,
I wasn't sure if a certain percentage of votes, you move forward.
Okay.
Or not.
Yeah, so. Just curious. I wasn't sure if there was. I didn't think so, but just wanted to ask you guys to see. I wasn't. Yeah. All right.
So we did have a question come in through Novak. I think it was one of his buddies asking if we had any bold predictions for this year. So I will preface this by saying next week I was planning on having our season outlook and our predictions, but are there any bold predictions you guys have, outside of that realm going in, not necessarily record wise, but other things? So I'll kick it over to Novak first.
I actually did have a giant one, but I'll save it for next week. So my Jet bold prediction is going to be, because I knew about this question, so I had time to think about it. The breakout player for the Jets this year is not going to be Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson. The breakout star and stud of the Jets is going to be Jermaine Johnson. I think he's going to lead the league in sacks. I think he's going to establish himself as the premier edge rusher in the league. And this is the guy that we need to keep our eyes on. I am bullish on Jermaine Johnson being the breakout star for the Jets in 2023. So that's my bold prediction. Not the core that everyone knows. This is the guy. I think this is his year, his breakout year.
Yeah,
Mike.
If the core of the Jets plays the way they're supposed to, and then this guy does what Novak just said, you can punch your ticket to the AFC title game. I mean, that's.
Hey, we didn't talk much about the Snoopy Bowl, but I'll tell you what, the Jets' first defense. Granted, they were playing against the Giants backups. They look damn impressive. Well, they're in the backfield on every play.
They will be like that all year.
Just like in the Panthers game. I mean, they were terrifying. A bold prediction. I think I have a bold prediction, and it's not Giant related, although it is in a little bit. It is in a small way. I think the Eagles are going to struggle, and not struggle mightily. They'll probably still a playoff team, and they probably will still win the NFC East. But I don't think they're going 14-3 or 13-4. I think they're going to come back to the pack a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually kicking around the idea of having. I think Dallas is going to finish third in this division. So it's not really them struggling, but I was just thinking along those lines as you were saying that. I think Dallas is gonna struggle to be in the top 2 and make the playoffs, but we'll see what happens. Last year NFC's put 3 in.
So I know there's 17. Yeah, I was just gonna say, but Scott, I know there's 17 games. It's a hell of a long season, but like I will be tempted to agree with that only if I swear Giants beat Dallas week 1, and I'll feel better about that. They lose at home to Dallas in week 1, and right away I'm going to feel not that this season we can't recover from that, but for that prediction specifically, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Yeah,
right there for the Giants to win Now, again, you're talking about a lot of weeks and a lot of football, but week one, I hate to say it, guys. I'm feeling I'm going to be a lunatic that night watching the games. I hope we can watch the game together because I think we have to. I can't watch it alone. I know that, but that's going to be lunatic fringe Sunday night
game.
Yeah.
It's a Sunday night game. Those are always tough.
Lunatic fringe Sunday night.
Do a Mulligan's run.
Do not panic, Cardone. Dallas plays well early in seasons. They just do.
What I feel like this is throwback pod night or something like that, because the other one of my favorite comments was from Giant Mike. I was going to bring this up last week for when we were talking about the playoff game. What's the other one of my favorite lines? We're fine. We're fine. So I'm referencing the wild card game against Minnesota last year when the first drive of the game, Minnesota takes it and just shoves it and jams the ball down our throat for a 7-0 lead. I'm climbing the walls and Giant Mike is saying, we're fine. We're fine. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're fine. Didn't you just say what? We're fine.
Did you see what
and
just
he was
happened?
right. So
I used "we're fine" the next weekend also, and we were not fine.
We're fine, but but I don't know how I'm like, we're fine. It was kind of a little nervousness there, but at the same time, you said it with conviction and confidence. But anyway, I digress a little bit. But
Cardone, bold prediction.
It's funny. I had no time to think about this, but you know what? I just thought of one as you guys started to talk about yours. And I don't see any reason why this can't happen. I usually don't go with individual performances and stats kind of stuff because I'm not a fantasy football guy anymore, that kind of thing anymore. But I'll just go out and say Saquon Barkley leads the NFC in total yards from scrimmage this year.
Wow, I like that.
Yeah.
I was thinking today that I think Barkley, we didn't see Barkley in preseason, and the Giants still had a dynamic offense. I think we're going to see a lot out of Saquon Barkley.
So do I. I think I see like a Tiki Barber kind of year when Barber went bananas, like in 2005, I think it was. I think he even led the damn league. Barber was another one of those underrated kind of guys at that time, like because he didn't get a lot of touchdowns, whatever the case was. But like I can see Barkley between the combination of catching passes out of the backfield and just his running ability. I think he could lead the league in yards from scrimmage.
Nice.
The table's set for him.
Yeah.
The table is set for him.
Yeah.
I mean, we played a lot of years with a bad offensive line and Jones losing the ball too much and all that. This offensive line is better. Jones is better. And the one thing that has to happen is Dallas is going to come out week one and they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage because that's how everyone plays the Giants. And if Jones doesn't burn them over the top a couple of times to get him to back away, we could be right back in the same soup.
Yeah.
But if he does, then you know what will happen? Dallas will back off week one. And then when we go into our week 2 game, they'll back off because they'll have watched that film. But we've got to hit him. And I think that is Shane's that is the reason he wanted Jalen Hyatt on this team so bad, is because we just need a guy who can get loose behind the defense because the defense is playing a 15-yard game against the Giants.
Yep.
And we got to make them play a 50-yard game.
Yep.
And if that happens, Barkley's going to go nuts.
Yeah.
And my 2 bold predictions, Giants related, are that Isaiah Simmons is going to have an impact on this season. I don't know how seriously he will, but I think he's going to make some impact plays and show his worth as a top 10 pick. And I also think that Jalen Hyatt is going to have like an 18.5 yard per catch average.
Wow.
If he does that, then that will make
big.
If yours happens, then Cardone's will happen.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Very possible.
And if I had to look at any non-Giant
offense,
bold predictions, I actually think that we're going to see a turning of the tide against our boy Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is going to finish this year with a lot of question marks. The shine wore off Kyler Murray. I mean, he's basically on the outs with Arizona. I think you're going to see the same thing happen with Justin Fields because I think they're going to be they've upgraded the offensive line. They've given them some weapons, and I think that team's still a five-win team.
Well, if they continue to make excuses for him after what they built for him there, I don't think it's going to help. But yeah, I mean, the media will listen. They probably won't do it this year, Scott. My guess would be they wouldn't go this year, but they'll start next year with it if he doesn't produce.
That could be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll say one quick giant one. I think the best offseason acquisition for both New York teams from a free agent standpoint or a trade is Darren Waller. I think he is going to be massively huge for the Giants this year.
Yeah.
That's a good call.
I like that call, Novak. Yeah, that's a big time target there in the red zone and those third down situations. So it's that's a good call, man. Definitely high on that guy.
It's for Waller. It's just stay healthy, right? That's all it is.
Yeah.
Just stay healthy.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else tonight? All right. So I think next week we'll be on. Hit us up at angry_3. Send us in questions. We had quite a few questions this week. Next week, we're going to do the season preview. We'll look forward to the Dallas game. We'll look forward to the Bills game for the Jets. And of course, we'll have pet peeves and other segments. So this week was funny. We had a lot of throwback segments talking about the throwback fantasy football draft. There is quite nice. So tune in next week. We'll be back to preview the season, and hope you guys have a great week.
Same bat time.
See ya.
See ya.
Take care.